Thank you, and welcome to this meeting of Bracknell Forest's executive. I welcome everybody, both here and online, and any members of the public who are with us too. You're all very welcome indeed. We could go straight to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, please, Hannah?
I have apologies from Councillor Barnard, who is running late, so he may be here and he may join online when he gets home.
Apologies, I'm going to be hybrid the whole way because I'm currently sitting in a lay-by off the M25, sorry.
Okay, fine. Yeah, well, that's it. Well, we wish you well with your journey home and look forward to any contributions that you may be able to make. Yes. Mark Brunel Walker. Okay, so we have apologies from Mark Brunel Walker, who hopes to be online. Okay, thank you. Colleagues, do we have any declarations of interest? No, non-obvious, fine. In which case, the usual caveat, please, that should any debate take an unexpected turn and you suddenly realise there may be a declaration of interest, please don't hesitate to interrupt proceedings to declare it. We move on then to agenda item 3, which is to consider and approve the minutes of the executive held on the 7th of February. Colleagues, you've all seen those minutes. Is it your wish that I approve them? Thank you very much, Councillor Turrell, and thank you, Councillor Hayden. That's seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Then, urgent items of business. Hannah, are we aware of any?
No, none notified.
None? Fine. Thank you very much. So we are as per the agenda, which takes us into agenda item 5, the first of the executive key decisions. And that is the procurement of Microsoft M365 licenses. And that's going to be introduced by, I believe, is Kevin. Yeah, Mr. Gibbs, thank you.
Chair, I'm just waiting for my mic to warm up. I think that we're good to go. Chair, this report is a standard report in terms of the procurement of our Microsoft 365 licensing. It's a standard item. There's nothing to really note other than we have to repurchase every 3 years. So this is just to authorise that purchasing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? No. If there are no questions, I'll hand straight over to Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Leader. I think this is what they used to refer to as a no-brainer. If we don't actually license ourselves, we'll be in breach of license. If we don't have this software, most of our stuff won't work, and we certainly won't be having people joining us over Teams. So I propose the motion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is that seconded, is it? Thank you very much, Councillor Mrs Hayes. Do you have anything else to add, Councillor Harrison? No? I think not.
I think the fact that we run standard office software and various things like that is fairly self-explanatory. Almost every organisation does it, so I won't add anything to that.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Anybody else wish to contribute? No? Then nothing to sum up to. All those in favour, please show. That is unanimously approved. Thank you. And agenda item 6 is the Bracknell Forest local plan consultation on the main modifications, and that's to be introduced by Andrew Hunter. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Leader. So the purpose of this report is to seek the Executive's agreement to consult on proposed modifications to the Bracknell Forest local plan. As members will be aware, the plan was submitted to the Planning Inspectorate in December 2021, and over the period of 2022 there were 2 hearing sessions into that plan, both one in May and then one in October. Following those hearing sessions, the Council has received a letter in January from the inspectors which confirmed that the plan meets tests of legal compliance and duty to cooperate, and that with modifications the plan is capable of being adopted. The letter from the inspectors sets out the modifications that they would expect to be undertaken in order for the plan to be considered adoptable. The appendix in the paper to the report sets out those draft modifications that would be needed to the plan. At this point, it's worth noting that those are not yet agreed with the inspectors, but provide a good idea of the main modifications which will be consulted upon. At the moment, the schedule does not contain any minor modifications or modifications that would be of consequential change. Those will be picked up and agreed with the inspectors. The key changes to the plan are set out in paragraph 5.6 of the cover report, and include in particular the deletion of the Gellets Hill proposal and 3 smaller sites within the plan, the addition of an additional climate change policy, and some merging and rewording of policies within the plan. It's proposed that the consultation on the modifications will take place in early summer, with a 6-week consultation as set by statute, and Appendix C of the report sets out the approach that we will take, which will mirror a similar consultation process that we took for the submission plan. Following the consultation, the responses will be collated and summarised for the inspectors, and then they will then consider those prior to formally writing to the Council with their final report. So the recommendation seeks agreement to consult on modifications and seeks delegations to enable the main and minor modifications to be agreed with inspectors, so that consultation can commence in early summer. Happy to take any questions, Leader.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Colleagues, are there any questions? No, in which case, thank you very much. And I hand over to Councillor Turrell.
Thanks, Leader. I'm happy to move the recommendations on page 27.
Thank you very much. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Mrs Hayes. Thank you. Councillor Turrell.
Right, well, thank you. The decision before us this evening is an important milestone for the local plan. The overall finding by the examiners that it can be made sound with modifications is an important tribute to the quality of the enormous amount of sustained work carried out on it by our planning policy team. It is by no means unusual for local plans reaching this stage to require some modification. On Greenbelt release, an important question has been asked and answered. While the examiners recommend that the Syngenta site be deleted, it is a significant strength of the plan that we have not been asked to include additional sites. The proposed consultation will be on modifications which will sharpen the focus of the plan. An overarching policy on climate change will address a key issue which we know will be with us for the whole of the plan period, which lasts until 2037. Modifications to the plan's spatial strategy will give clearer direction for growth during the plan period. While not an invitation to rewrite the plan, the consultation will be a chance for final fine-tuning of the plan. I urge the Executive to support the recommendation before us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to contribute to debate? Councillor Mrs Hayes.
I concur with what Councillor Turrell said, but I would also request that officers make sure that the period of the 6 weeks notifications are well advertised.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Councillor Turrell, do you wish to sum up?
I note the point about advertising, and yes, it's a very important one.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. And we move on to agenda item 7, which is the Highways and Transport Capital Programme for 2023-24, and once again to be introduced by Mr Hunter.
Thank you, Leader. So this report seeks the approval of the combined Highways and Transport Capital Programme for 2023 to 2024, which is set out in Annex 1 of the papers. The programme for the coming year totals just over £4.5 million worth of funding, 75% of that is externally funded through government grants and developer contribution. The transport elements within the works for the coming year have got a strong focus on sustainable travel, with over £500,000 allocated to pedestrian and cycle infrastructure, and a number of schemes which have emerged from engagement with communities and local members. There's also a wide range of highway safety improvements and schemes to tackle residential parking pressures, alongside technological improvements to traffic signal infrastructure. In terms of the highway elements, this is to address our sort of planned maintenance priorities for roads, highway structures, drainage and electrical assets. We do have highway maintenance challenges experienced by all local authorities, and the council in this programme has increased its core capital contribution to 1.2 million from 600,000 in 2023 to respond to that. So moving forward, we are looking for the executive to agree the schedule that's before you, in line with the schemes and programmes that's set out, and happy to take any further questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Harrison.
I've just recently seen notice that the government has provided a significant sum of money in the direction of Bracknell Forest for dealing with potholes. Does that come into this programme, or is this something separate from there? And how are we going to use that?
So our normal programme would cover potholes through this funding. There is additional funding that's been announced by the government. We don't yet know what that allocation is, but that would top up in terms of the road maintenance side of things.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any further questions? No? Then Councillor Turrell.
Thanks, Leader. I'm happy to move the recommendation on page 129.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you very much, Councillor Mrs Hayes. Councillor Turrell.
Thanks. The Highways Capital Plan for 23-24 before us this evening responds to residents' concerns by having a greater focus on maintenance of residential streets. The significant increase in funding by this council recognises the need to prioritise more action in this area. A notable feature of highway infrastructure in Bracknell is the new town legacy, which means groups of assets come to need attention at the same time. This plan makes realistic provision for this. The detail is set out on page 133 of the reports. The recent cold weather has had a significant effect on our road surfaces, as is the way with such weather. In addition to the plan, there will be a catch-up on the numbers of new potholes which have appeared as a result. The additional funding from the government for this is very welcome. The Transport Capital Programme includes schemes to encourage more walking and cycling, a key part of decarbonising transport. In this, it is responsive to changes in travel patterns seen since the pandemic. Increasing access and travel choice feature in the proposals additionally. Road safety and highway performance are also important, and more residential parking schemes are also included. We know these are needed and will continue to address this concern of many residents. I commend the plan to the executive.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Does the seconder like to speak? No? No? Anybody else? Yes, Councillor Hayden.
Thank you. Supporting this item, I'm particularly pleased, and it's never going to be enough, item 2.1 on the annex residential parking. I'm sure highways are bending over backwards to fit in extra parking places all the time, and that really is to be welcomed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. No other contributions. Councillor Turrell, back to you.
Thanks for that. Yes, the residential parking scheme has been a feature of the plan for quite some years now. The engineers do work hard to find extra spaces, places where extra spaces can be put, and it is actually very often it makes a significant difference to a street when even a few extra spaces can be put in. I think we have to recognise that car usage has changed very much over the years since a lot of the streets in the borough were built, and it is right to recognise the need there that residents have for extra space. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 8 is the item on SANG capacity agreements between Bracknell Forest Council and Surrey Heath Borough Council. Mr Hunter, back to you.
Thank you, Leader. So this report seeks the agreement of the Executive to enter into an agreement with Surrey Heath Council to enable it to access suitable alternative natural green spaces, SANGs as we know them, a capacity of about 500 worth of dwelling at Shepherd's Meadows for enabling them to deal with their housing delivery. In 2015, the Executive agreed a very similar arrangement which allowed Surrey Heath access to our SANG capacity. That agreement has now come to its end and has been fully utilised. This report is for a further arrangement to enable housing delivery in Surrey Heath. Surrey Heath suffers from very limited SANG capacity and it does inhibit its housing growth. This arrangement helps to enable Surrey Heath to meet its housing requirements and for us to undertake our duty to cooperate. If agreed, the arrangement will align with the costs set out in the Council's Thames Basin Heath supplementary planning document and any future iterations of that, and funding will be index linked. The tables within the report identify the capacity which is available in the south of the borough, and identifies that we have more than enough capacity to deal both with our own developments in Bracknell Forest and to enter into this agreement. Funding for this arrangement will go towards the enhancement, maintenance and management of the Council's SANGs and is likely to bring in a reasonable amount of income to the Council to enable that to happen. The recommendations then to the Executive are to enter into the agreement with Surrey Heath and apply the costs set out in the supplementary planning document, and for those figures to be index linked. Happy to take any queries or questions.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Hayden, you have a question.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a bit of a strange one. The same way, does this mean that it supports our claim that we're full of green spaces? Because the Bracknell Forest have had some really good publicity on being one of the most treed boroughs in the country recently. The fact that we have SANGs that other people don't have, I assume that's another illustration of us being a borough with lots of green spaces.
Yeah, I mean, we're blessed with good green spaces, but we've had a SANG strategy from early in the 2000s, so we've been developing SANGs specifically for this reason, so that we give people access to green spaces, enhance them and enable us to enable housing delivery to take place. So yeah, we're well blessed with them, but our strategy has really implemented and improved the quality of them.
Thank you. It's nice to see it in action.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No, in which case, Councillor Turrell, over to you.
Thanks, Leader. So here we go. I'm happy to move the recommendations on page 135.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
Okay. As has been stated, this proposal is a repeat of a successful scheme initiated in 2015 between Bracknell Forest Council and Surrey Heath Borough Council. It has the advantage of enabling much needed development in Surrey Heath, which would not otherwise be able to take place due to the proximity of the Thames Basin Heath's SPA. The proposal uses a small part, as we've heard, of the SANG land available in the area and still allows for SANG needed in the period of the emerging local plan. The details are set out in the supporting information section of the report beginning on page 137, and as has been stated, it also provides income for Bracknell Forest. So a pragmatic and sensible agreement between two councils. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak? Okay. Anybody else? No? Back to the seconder.
In which case, I'd just like to endorse my colleague, Councillor Turrell.
Thank you. Councillor Turrell.
Thank you very much. I think there's anything to add on that.
No.
No. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That is unanimous. And taking us now to agenda item 9, which is School Places Plan and Capital Strategy for 2023 to 28. Mrs. Siggins, over to you.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, colleagues. So the report that you have in front of you, if you recall, you will have seen an earlier version, and we did commit at that point to continue to update the school place plan and capital strategy as additional information was obtained. So the document you have in front of you is the strategy for 23 to 28. In terms of the detail of the strategy, just by way of background, we are required by the Department for Education to ensure that we have a sufficient number of primary and secondary school places, and to ensure that in our forecasting planning we take account to the changing demographic and shape of the residents and requirements of our population in Bracknell Forest. The document also includes an outline of the work underway to understand and plan for sufficiency within our capacity support children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities. What the document doesn't include is a detailed capital plan for investment in school places for special educational needs and disabilities, because as you will probably know, or you do know, there have been significant changes in terms of our approach to that. Recently we have been awarded a special free school, and work is underway with the Department for Education, because as you'll see in the plan, there is a requirement for additional special school places. We're also planning for and developing additional specialist resource provisions within schools to improve our inclusive education within our mainstream offer. And at the appropriate time, when we have the detailed plan, an additional capital bid will come to the executive in order to seek approval at that time. Nothing further from me, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Are there any questions? No? In which case, in the absence of Councillor Dr Barnard... Oh, no, he's got to be in the room to move it. Yeah. So I will move this item, and I think we've heard, as we've heard from the director, that we have responsibility to provide adequate provision for all young people, children and young people in our borough, and this is the plan that does that, and it also allows for capital that may be required to be spent on that provision. And so I'm happy to move that, and I see, can I first get a seconder? Thank you very much, Councillor Turrell, and I see that Councillor Dr Barnard would like to comment.
Thank you. So based on the miracles of technology, let's hope this holds. Can I just endorse the comments the director said in introducing this? I think it's a very well thought through plan, and I think there's a lot of work that's been done in that in terms of understanding the various drivers behind this. I want to particularly focus in on the SEN pieces in the plan, because what this is about is, one, as we've said, promoting inclusion, which means we can actually provide an education support more of our children in a mainstream school. And if you can do that whilst meeting additional needs, there are huge benefits to the whole school community, in particular the children involved. It does help in some cases, well, actually quite a few cases, with ambition and aspiration. I think the other exciting bit is that with the award of the ASD school, free school award from the DFE, this is going to be hugely helpful in terms of developing that capacity, and critically meaning that, coupled with the additional resource units at our school, that we can have more of our children supported in Bracknell Forest. As you'll know, one of the key things that we have to look at is the high needs block, is the money we spend on education provision for children. And as has been said very clearly, a lot of that actually goes outside on Bracknell Forest at this time. So I think it's a really good plan. I think it's well thought through. But as the director says, there will be supplementary capital requirements. But because it will be based on a 3-year plan, which has been discussed and worked with by the Schools Forum, I think we're very much moving in the right direction. If you couple that with the work going on to improve the quality provision, the plans and the assessments for children over the next months and years ahead, I think we're moving in a very good position there. Just to say that, of course, this year, as it stands at the moment, all our schools are currently rated good or outstanding by Ofsted. So that actually means that children will go to good and outstanding schools, and we will do all we can to maintain the quality of those schools and enhance them through this special provision and things like that in there for those children that need it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Would anybody else like to comment? Yes, Councillor Hayden.
In the report, 2.3, the forecast pupil numbers, you can't help but notice the SEND pupils, the increase there. There's just a comment there is, A, how important it is for us in our basic strategy of looking after people who are vulnerable. That ticks that box. But also, don't forget, this is something that's increasingly expensive and a factor that's putting a lot of financial pressure on the council. But nonetheless, we're actually addressing it.
We are indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, yes. And in summing up, I'd like to add the gratitude of myself and all the executive to Mrs. Siggins and her team for the work that they do and continue to do to keep on top of this and to meet the seemingly ever-increasing needs of people, and that's great to see. So, thank you, colleagues. Please give this your support. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 10 is the Local Authority Housing Fund, and that again is to be introduced by Mrs. Siggins.
Thank you, Leader, and I'll be brief on this one. The executive previously agreed the housing strategy and our homelessness strategy for Bracknell Forest, and if you can recall some of the content, you'll be aware that we do have increasing pressure on demand for housing, but also for temporary accommodation. Shortly before Christmas, some government funding was made available for local authorities to bid for, to try to ease some of the pressure, and colleagues responded very quickly and proposed an outline bid to actually acquire a number of properties outlined within the recommendations. What the executive are asked this evening to agree is to approve the proposals for us to acquire 7 3-bedroom homes and refurbish 2 3-bedroom properties for our existing stock to be made available for the scheme, and also to recommend to approve capital spend to the maximum of 3.4 million to meet the total cost in acquiring the additional homes. And it outlines how that's going to be approved. An indicative allocation of £1.26 million is available, subject to formal approval, to support the recommendations indicated in the document. We do have a shortage of family homes, so this is an excellent opportunity to actually increase the stock for use for our families who are requiring temporary accommodation.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Are there any questions at this point? No? Okay, in which case, in the absence of the executive member in the room, I will move item 11 myself and hand over, if that's seconded, thank you very much, Councillor Hayden, and then I'll hand over to the executive member, Councillor Birch, to comment.
Thank you, Leader. And under agenda item 10, the importance of this cannot be stressed enough, because it's important that we have temporary accommodation for the people mentioned in the report. and it's almost appropriate that you're moving this tonight because part of that is within your portfolio also, excuse me, and also what I'm keen to stress is that in doing this, we are also not applying pressure to the current housing waiting lists, etc. So this is not going to place an undue pressure for this number of families on the existing system. And also, you will see in the report the way the funding is to be worked out, and demonstrates yet again how the officers and this administration work closely with all the people that are involved in order to make sure that the right sort of accommodation can be sought out and provided for those in most need. And I'm sure you will join me in thanking the officers who have very quickly turned around a requirement, put it into concrete proposals that have the proper level of support and security, excuse me, for those important people. And as you can see, there's also an important element that when this is done, whilst we're not looking at surpluses as such, you'll see that cost avoidance does give the project a positive outcome. So, Leader and Chairman, thank you for the opportunity of speaking to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Does anybody else wish to contribute? No? Then, oh yes, Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to reinforce what Councillor Birch has said, that housing is always one of our pressure points. And thank you to the officers, because the initiative and urgency which they've actually met some of the additional pressures that are beyond our control, I think it should be recognised and thanked.
Thank you. Thank you. In summing up, can I just say that, of course, as we've already heard, housing is always a pressure point, but I also believe, and always have done, that housing is the most fundamental of constituent parts of people's well-being, and if you have somewhere to call home, the world just seems a better place, and those who are not in that happy position, things need to be done, and indeed our colleagues have responded very well here, and have responded well throughout the current and previous need for all hands to the pump in this country. And so I think this is an excellent initiative, and we are certainly managing to keep things under control. But it's not an easy job, and we recognise that. And so I'm glad that there is support for this. So can I please ask you to support this motion now? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Next is agenda item 11, the Q3 Council Plan Overview Report, and that's to be introduced by Katie Flint. Hello, Katie.
Hello everyone, good evening. So the Q3 Council Plan Overview Report, this is our usual quarterly report on the progress being made to deliver the Council Plan commitments. In this quarter, there were a number of highlights included within the report, including the launch of the Winter Hub scheme and wellness programmes, also the opening of the new community hub in Princess Square for local refugees, and of course the brilliant Ofsted outcomes for school performance that has already been mentioned today. Specifically within this report, we've also brought the recommendation to revise the process for overview and scrutiny commission's involvement in reviewing the CPOR. So this change will enable them to scrutinise the information in a more timely way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And are there any questions? No, in which case then I should like to move the motion as it appears on the papers. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Mrs Hayes. And I would just like to take a moment to congratulate the officers of the council and its directors for producing such a good and comprehensive piece of work in this quarter. Pleased to the fact that we are joyous to receive good reports on a regular basis. That doesn't mean we are any less grateful for the effort that's gone into to getting the work done that's reported on so well here. And please do take back to your various teams our appreciation for the hard work, and I know the appreciation of the residents of Bracknell Forest. So it's great to have this kind of overview report, and but we are aware that there's an awful lot of hard work behind it. So thank you, Councillor Mrs Hayes.
If one notices to page 275.5.3, those achievements, a lot of hard work have gone there, and I congratulate the officers for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Hayes. Councillor Mrs Hayes. And any other comments? No? In which case, nothing really to sum up to there, except would everybody please like to show their support? Thank you. That's unanimously approved. Item 12 is the 2023 service plans, and this again is to be introduced by Katie Flint.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So the service plans for 2023, this report is our annual review and update of the Directorate service plans. Specifically, this current update has been a light touch review ahead of developing the new council plan, which will be later on this year. Therefore, the present plans cover action specifically from April 2023 through until September 2023, by which point the new plan will be agreed. I think these plans, just to note briefly, these plans demonstrate the huge array of work taking place across all directorates within the council that is very much supporting the delivery of the council plan objectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Then I'm happy to move the recommendations on page 309. And are they seconded? Thank you, Councillor Turrell. Excuse me. And I think there's very little to say. I mean, but it is very easy to say this is a standard thing for councils. We move plans, we look at plans, we approve the plans, and then we set about delivering upon those plans. It is, of course, important that everything matches up if you're going to anticipate full delivery to a plan. And that's why we spend a lot of time, and our colleagues, our officers, produce these plans. It takes a lot of hard work, almost, I sometimes think, as much as it does to actually deliver to them. But it is good to see these plans which give our residents confidence, and hopefully also the reputation of the council for delivering to its plans should give our residents confidence also. So I'm extremely grateful to everyone involved thus far in the production of this plan refresh, and trust that my colleagues will be able to support it. Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Turrell.
I'll just echo those comments in particular. I mean, planning, you know, there are various well-known phrases about planning, and there's some fairly pithy phrases about what happens if you don't plan. And quite frankly, you haven't got to look far in local government to see evidence of recklessness and all the consequences that come from it, which can be dire for residents. So I think it is really important that this is an important piece of work, and it's important it's done regularly, and that is it. We have a clear system here, and it's which is, I think it underpins so much of what this council can actually do, because we have made plans for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Any other contributions? No? Then I have nothing to add to what my colleague Councillor Turrell has said, save that I certainly endorse his comments about, and I think the pithy words is a plan to fail, is it not? So, with that in mind, and the fact that we do not plan to fail, I should like to move the recommendations and trust you'll support me. All those in favour, please. Thank you. That is unanimous. We now move on to item 13, which is the exclusion of the press and public. Please take the item as read, and when we have seen that we have excluded the press and public, and I thank them all for their attendance thus far, we can move on to the later agenda items.